All right, we're going to do it this way. But you know what? We're going to take the headphones off to indicate casualness. Hey, everybody, I'm Ken Napzok, and this is a special edition of the Blathering Mailbag, the show in which someone from my community asked me a question and I tried to answer. The reason it's so special is, well, they're all special, but two, as I'm doing this from not only the inside, but my actual, podcast live show setup, which is, I started the Blathering Mailbag to not do it this way, to try a little more casual, authentic approach, because if you sit in a studio, people think you're not authentic, apparently. But maybe that's just in my head. And then what ends up happening is I have to edit the other one that's so casual. It takes most of my day. And I'm not done with those. But also, there's a rainstorm brewing outside. And I had a guy working on my house today. You know, shingles are very important. You got to repair the shingles. So we're in the studio today. I don't think you needed to hear any of that. All right, so today's question comes from 8984M. We call him Brady around here. And he asks this question. As another person who struggles with focus and attention, wonder what that's called, do you have any advice about how to handle this while adulting/careering? I don't have the advice, other than it's time, maybe, if you haven't already, to seek professional guidance. When I'm going to say help, I'm going to say professional guidance on that. I'm one of those folks that's going to start that because I've put it off. Why have I put it off? And I don't know why I'm not saying the word, but possibly like ADHD, which is not a word. It's the acronym for, you know what I mean? I have put that off for a while. I've wanted to do it for the last couple of years, and it's not out of any kind of fear, a little out of cost. I don't know if I have health insurance in a couple of weeks. Who knows? But I got an appointment in a couple of weeks. But I'm very proud of myself for finally making that appointment to start the journey to discover if, in fact, I am officially ADHD, ADD, something. We'll see. We'll see. I have pretty good reason to suspect I do, because, and I hate saying do your own research. I hate being a white guy in a podcast studio with a shaggy beard saying do your own research. But over the last couple of years, looking at, there was a Threads account that it's like ADHD Weekly, or reading news stories. Every time I heard someone talking about the subject, I was like, check that's me, check that's me, check that's me. Maybe not that one, maybe not so much that one, but definitely that one. And things started to make sense. And Brady, I think that's the first thing. You're a lot younger than me. You probably have less gray in your beard, and maybe you've already started your professional assistance journey with this. Do that. If anything, just to find out what you actually might be suffering from. Suffering's not the word. That's not the word. That's not fair. We don't use the word suffering. What you might be living with, right? Words matter. I'm not saying that cynically. Words matter. What you might be living with, and how to best deal with that there. The reason, and by the way, the reason I started a show called The Blathering is because I can't keep on one straight conversational path, which I'm actually okay with. I didn't put it off because I didn't want to go to the doctor. I put it off because I forget. I get distracted. I have too many things going at once. I get overwhelmed, and I just plumb forgot that maybe, hey, this is something that I wanted to do. And then I'd have conversations with friends who were diagnosed or have been diagnosed with ADHD or anything. And I'm just saying ADHD in a general term, in a general sense. I know that might mean a lot of things. So I apologize if that's not correct. And that was sincere. That was about 70% sincere. 30% lay off internet. We're all trying to survive here in a society. Anyways, I just plumb forgot. And now I'm ready to take that journey, because every time I talk to someone who has it, they would say things that I'm like, I've been dealing with this all my life, and I have not gotten to places that I wanted to get as an adult or in my career, whether as an adult or not. I'm not just talking about successes. I wanted to buy a house and win an Oscar. Yeah. Those are two good ideas. Not going to happen. Not at this point. Just stability or confidence, or, hey, I'm going to set my mind on this and I'm going to do it. I've had moments of that. And it's come at great pain. I wrote a book, Why We Love Star Wars. Hey, check it out. Go to my website. Selling personalized copies. If you'd like to direct order them from me, or send money to Jeff Bezos and I'll get 10 cents. It doesn't matter. But I wrote that book at great psychological cost. That was really hard for me. I got through it. I had a couple like straight up scream into a pillow nervous breakdowns, and that just might be part of the writing process. But looking back, it was a pretty monumental task for me to sit down and try to write a book when I can't concentrate on a straight line through a podcast or a video. I truly digress. The big advice is, Brady, like, hey, start that journey if you haven't already. And there's other people who have more important words or more insightful words on the help that they've received and what it's meant to them. The other bit of advice, there's two things, and I'll say this, maybe I should put a disclaimer up on the screen, but then that would take a lot of attention energy to make like a graphic, even if it's just for a joke. So just imagine I did that. There's two things that come to mind when I hear your question, Brady. Is one, now that I've at least been made aware that some of the struggles I've had in my career, even just like, hey, I'm going to launch this show, I'm going to launch this podcast. It's a good idea, but I have to build it. I have to work on it. And then 6 episodes in, I just kind of stopped. I didn't stop because there wasn't an interest in it. I didn't stop because I had a lack of interest in it. I just got overwhelmed at continuing to create the show. Even this video, let's get real. This video, I skipped last week. I was a little busy last week. I want to put these out once a week, Wednesdays. That's a good idea. YouTube likes consistency, I think, until YouTube doesn't, and then they won't tell you. Who cares? I wanted to put them out. I missed 1 week because I was traveling. I couldn't do it. I missed last week because I was busy, but I could have done it. And I didn't do it because I couldn't focus up enough. And I got overwhelmed and emotionally crushed by the tasks it takes to do these videos, which are not a lot. And anyone out there in YouTube world will tell you it's a lot of work, but what I was doing was a couple hours. Some people, it's days. But I got overwhelmed and I shrunk back. And that's usually where a lot of my ideas in the past have failed. They've crumbled under the weight of my own expectations, of my own workflow, and they've gone to the wayside. Now, I do like to be, it's hard for me to be under structure, which again might tie into the big picture, but that's also just who I am. I've learned this. Brady. Man, I am jumping all around. I do have to accept how I get things done. It's the big point. And then I have a littler point of how I deal with it. As I begin what I'm calling a professional support journey on understanding more about who I am also trying to accept who I am. So it's easy for me. I'm expressing, that's why I'm getting lost in my own conversation here. I'm expressing frustration that I have not been able to complete things in my career. I've not been able to level up to a level that I wanted to be at, because I've been overwhelmed by all of this, and that's all in my brain. So sometimes, though, I've tried to correct that. And I've tried to correct it on my own. Again, that's why I say start the journey. But 2, try to correct it in ways that don't jive with how I work. And I need to accept that there are just some ways that currently my brain works, and that's me. And while I do want to improve it, and I do want to have intentionality in my work, and I want to improve my workflows, and I want to be more disciplined. Like tonight, I instead of doing this video, I'll tell you what I really wanted to do. I bought some banana pudding ice cream, and I want to sit down and just play video games for a couple hours. And I'll probably do that later, but I almost did that instead of this video. I want to move past that stuff. And by the way, pat on my back for completing this video today. But there are some times where I have tried to force myself into a box that I do not want to be in, that I can't be in when it comes to my approach to work or just how my brain works. A lot of this comes from guilt. I am one of those kids from the 80s that was pulled out of class, plucked into another room, and for me, it was called GATE, like gifted and talented education or something like that. I know, basically it was like, hey, we've discovered that you might be a little above the fellow students in your class. You have some skills. You're smart. Kid, you're smart. So you and the 3 other smart kids in the class of 32, you're going to go in this little antechamber in another part of the school, and you're going to play some like weird board games or computer programs, and you're going to survive the Oregon Trail while the other, your dumb friends are learning the normal ways of doing things. You guys are so smart, you're going to be left to your own devices. Overall, look, I got it. I don't know. I was a kid. I didn't know. It seemed weird. It was actually embarrassing to be pulled out of class. But I don't think what I learned from that is that if I had a homework assignment, I could half-ass it. I could complete it the morning of, and I wouldn't. My parents would make me sit down and work on it, but I knew that I could really concentrate on it late in the game, still turn in my assignment, and not only get a good grade, but be told, yeah, you are one of the smart ones. You go back into that antechamber. You get to play Oregon Trail, maybe lemonade, learn to run a lemonade stand, have some fun. The rest of these Egypts over here in your class are going to try to, they're going to learn how to scribble on the wall. I wish I'd been left with those kids scribbling on the walls because I think they learn how to complete things, the processes. I think a lot of folks, and I don't mean this, to look back at GATE in the 80s or those kind of educational programs in the 80s and tear them down. I don't know if they were overly successful or successful at all, but for me, I think it hindered me, where I just know that I'm so good at some of this stuff, writing and whatnot, that I could fake it. I could fake it and get a better grade than other folks. So a lot of times I did. And that set up a wiring in me that when it comes to something like, say, stand-up comedy, I got a gig on Saturday. I want to try that new bit. I should sit down and write that bit. Yeah, I should write the bit. I'll write that tomorrow. No, I'll do that Thursday. The gig's Saturday. I'll do it Friday. The gig's tonight. It's Saturday morning. I'm going to finish this breakfast. Crap. The gig's in 1 hour. All right, I'll just figure it out when I get there. And so that doesn't seem like it's the right thing to do. And yeah, maybe it's not. I do want to sit down and maybe write earlier. But what I've also discovered is that's also how I end up writing my jokes. That's how they come alive. And for me to try it another way, it's kind of swimming upstream. And again, I'm not saying this as any kind of professional other than a professional comic. And I've come to the realization lately, and shout out to my friend Jason, and we and I have had this conversation where, you can get some professional guidance. You can get on some medication. There's a lot of ways to get through this, and I'll talk about some of them here if I can remember. But what I have come to the realization is that's who I am. And while some of those things I just talked about, the medication or something like that can improve that, and again, I'm not celebrating the fact that I don't do my work until an hour before the show or an hour before the teacher wants me to turn it in. I'm not celebrating that. That's also who I am. And until I get some of the bigger help, I want to stop beating myself up for that. I want to stop being guilty about how my brain works. And I think that's an important realization in this entire thing. I'm not going to a doctor, and other people in the past have not gone to a doctor because they're broken. They're trying to come to a better understanding of who they are. And also, it's one of those pins I think I wanted to talk about. Growing up in the 80s, for me, born in the 70s, raised in the 80s and beyond, even up until last 5-10 years, I don't know, this kind of stuff was looked at, well, this is a broken person. This person's not normal. And maybe there's still some stigma with it. And we all should push past that. But you see a lot of folks, and I won't even just say older generations, but you see a lot of people doing the whole like, oh, well, everyone's autistic now and everyone's ADHD. We probably always were. We just had different descriptions for it. ADHD was the loud, weird kid in the corner of the class that we all kind of made fun of, or that the parents threw their hands up and, well, I don't know what to do. I've beat him with a stick right on the butt 15 times, Dr. James Dobson. It's not correcting him. We just know more now. And so it's not about repairing, to me. It's not about I'm broken. It's about finding the best way to understand my brain. And until I can sit down with a doctor, and again, I started the journey far too late because of a lot of the things I was talking about. And it wasn't even that I looked down upon it. A lot of people around me getting diagnoses, but I just thought, well, that's not me. I thought that wasn't me. And that's part of the pain I'm going through right now, is it probably was me. And if I had figured this out earlier, and if I had come to a better understanding of how my brain works earlier, I might be in a better position, not just in terms of cash in my bank account, but just understanding myself and completing more of the tasks that I've wanted to complete, or finding more of the success that I've wanted to have. But going back to my original point, I've got to release myself of that guilt and that shame. This is how my brain works. So instead of saying, nope, brain, don't work like that, sit down on Tuesday and start writing a joke there. Write the joke there. That's how you do it. As opposed to, hey, when you get closer to the showtime or you have an idea, you have some things you want to say, but then you build off the energy of the audience, or you build off just the energy from performing, or build off the energy of the other comics, and you form your bit. That might be how my brain works. And even though, like I said, I'm going to fine tune it, stop hating myself for that. I think that's one of the big things we're talking about, Brady. I'm not saying you hate yourself. I'm not saying other people out there hate themselves, but I at times have hated myself because of how my brain works. And I've got to let go of that. I've got to stop hating myself for being this way. That's the big one. The little thing I'll say is once I started to realize, and here's one of the moments. I'm trying to see if I have it here. This will work. I have a lot of like notes and stuff around. I'm the king of the Post-it notes. And I was explaining to someone, this was the first moment where I realized, oh, I didn't think I had this mind. I thought ADD or ADHD or anything with an attention deficit, kind of anything in that ballpark. I thought it was the loud kid in my class in second grade who couldn't sit still, and they gave him pills to make him sit still, and we all gossiped about it. I thought that's what it was, so I couldn't possibly be that. But in learning more about how the brain works, I would put Post-its notes. This was the moment. I would make Post-it notes. Tomorrow we do this. On Thursday. Now there's calendars. There's, I make calendar things for myself because I got to know I got to go to that place on Thursday. That's fine. But the tasks. Here's a list of all the things that I need to do. And then none of it would get done. And what ended up happening, it would be a stack of like 15 Post-it notes. And it used to be a fun game. I'd go look back at the lower portion of the stack and be like, oh, that's right, I did want to do that. That was 2 months ago. I failed to do it. And it was frustrating, very frustrating. And then I saw someone post on the internet. Have you heard of it? Capital I. I saw someone post that moment where you realize the task was making the list, and it never at any point in your brain and your mind and your heart and your soul was the task wasn't completing the tasks. The task was putting the task down on a piece of paper and going, I did it, and never remembering it again. So when I kind of had that big realization, I was talking to someone about this from an older generation recently, the boomers, that made a lot of sense to them. Because they were like, they literally said to me, oh, well, make a to-do list. It's like, I've got to-do lists. It's wallpaper at this point. I'm buried in to-do lists. And that made this person kind of realize, oh, my brain needs the lists. Your brain doesn't? I was like, my brain is crushed by the lists. So one of the small things, and this is to your actual question, if you have any advice about handling this while adulting and careering. One of the things over the last year that I've done is talk to myself. Yeah. Who doesn't love a good conversation with themselves? But I check in. Because again, I'm not fighting how my brain works. I'm trying to accept how my brain, my body, my mind, and soul, how they are and who I am. But I also need to get some stuff done. Also, I want to build this channel. I want that podcast to grow. I want a better stand-up career. I want to make all the money that capitalism will allow me to make. But I realize I need to check in with myself every day. I need to check in with myself every day, all through the day, out loud. Sometimes the dog is involved in the conversation. Sometimes it's a stuffed porg from Star Wars that's in the conversation, but I'm always the one in the conversation with myself. Hey, we got to do this. Hey, over the next hour, we need to accomplish this. At 3:00, you got to go shoot that video. But after that, when you come back, you're going to make dinner. You're going to sit down and have that dinner. Maybe we'll watch a little bit of The Gilded Age, which I'm late to the party. I apologize, Gilded Age fans. And yes, I'm going to get to Downton. I'm I'm working up. I'm working up from 1882, okay? We're going to make dinner. We're going to sit down. We're going to eat dinner while we watch the show. And then when that's done, check in with yourself. And so I then check in myself again. All right, what else do we need to accomplish? If we want to start winding down by 9:00, go record that radio segment you need to record. I don't give myself hard tasks, hard outs. super deadlines, just all throughout the day, Brady. I just continue to talk to myself and check in. How are we doing? How's it going? And sometimes I change. That's maybe the thing about to-do lists that maybe feel crushing to me is I feel as though I got to get that all done. But when I check in with myself, I can change. Hey, you know, we did a lot today. We actually accomplished a lot today. So how about we take the gas off the pedal? You have that dinner. Maybe we watch 2 episodes. Maybe we play some Fortnite. Maybe we go for a walk. Maybe we do something else that wasn't on the list because you've accomplished enough and you feel good about it. And that helps me feel better about myself. That helps my days be much more successful, and I accomplish more. And that's something I've been doing over the last 6 months. So that's the answer. Go on that journey, Brady. Get the help. Realize that you're already at an advantage because we're now having open and honest conversations about the stuff that all of us have to process and deal with and understand about ourselves. Don't beat yourself up. Accept how your brain works. And then the most important advice I can give you, Brady, is much like I'm doing right now because there's no one else in the room, talk to yourself. And you'll find out you're doing okay. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks for enjoying this, hopefully, this new kind of version of the Blathering Mailbag. Maybe we'll do it this way. And maybe when the rain stops, I'll go back outside with the squirrels. We'll see. I'm happy to be here, hanging out, answering questions. You can join the Patreon community and ask me those questions or become a YouTube channel member here. Links down below. That's it. All right. Did I hit everything I wanted to say? Probably not. That's why we blather.